It's the final percent. The final percent.
All right, this is the Final Percent podcast. It's just, it's fun to say things like that. The Final Percent podcast. I know I'm a dork. I'm silly. You got to have fun in life. And, you can't chase perfection. I am in my Jeep. I'm getting ready to... I actually lost my glasses in Moab, hanging out with Woody Woodward and Bob Snyder and Bob Tierney and Zach Ullman. We went and ripped some Can-Ams after the National, and, quite frankly, it was fun. It was really fun. But I lost my glasses. We went through a puddle, and who knows? Who knows where these glasses ended up? I think I bought the insurance, so I'm headed to the glasses place. I've been so busy, I realize I haven't knocked out a podcast in a little bit, so here I am. Progress over perfection is the name of the game, and this podcast is going to be all about just kind of a recap. Let's kind of go over a few things. We just had Tim Story, one of my great mentors on the podcast, and it's important. It's important who you spend your time with. And a lot of people are in this perpetual time of waiting. And I did this speech at the national conference in Salt Lake for a company that is near and dear to my heart named Renatus. I love working with these people. I actually, I bought their education as well. They have real estate and financial education. If you are interested in going down that rabbit hole, increasing your financial IQ, increasing your real estate knowledge, and plugging into a community that I truly think is going to change the world, please give me a ring or a call. Reach out, DM me on social media. Let's have that conversation, because I would love for you to plug into the community that we're building. It's truly changing lives. It's already changed my life. But at the national conference, I got on stage and I talked about the power of a conversation. Because, I've been to Costa Rica, I've been to Africa, I've been on national tours, I've stood on so many stages, and, all of a sudden I'm standing on this stage and, about to give a presentation. It's almost 2-hour presentation to 600 people. And we posed the question, how did I get here? How did it happen? And so we traced this all the way back to a conversation that I had, roughly 3.5, 4 years ago. And we traced, as I'm presenting, the conversation that I had, from that person that led to this conversation, that led to this conversation, that led to Africa, that led to Costa Rica, that led to a national tour, that led to this, that led to this. And then if I didn't have that one singular conversation early on, none of the extra things happen. And I know that this is essentially called the butterfly effect. And I think that we need to pay attention to the butterfly effect more often than we do, because the butterfly effect realistically is absolutely everything. You have the butterfly effect in your energy, in your conversations, in, unfortunately, your anger. Every decision you make is going to have this ripple effect. There's this ripple effect that's going on in your life, and you got to ask yourself, am I happy with the ripples? And if you're happy with the ripples, sure, keep doing what you're doing, but are you even aware of the ripples? And as I was going through, building my presentation and building these things up, I realized just how important the ripples are, because, it led me into so many other really important conversations in my life. Like, for instance, I had a conversation with this wonderful, beautiful, amazing, incredible person named Kayla. And if I don't have that conversation, Conrad, my son, never exists. He never even exists. So you tell me if that's a good ripple. That's a freaking awesome ripple. I mean, that little kid has changed my life in the absolute best way. I mean, he has taught me more about myself than any amount of personal growth books have ever even come close to. And so I just want you to understand that, you can call this so many different things: the compound effect, the chain reaction, the butterfly effect. But the fact of the matter is, are you aware of your ripples? And so I think that that's actually such a great question. How did I get here? How did I get here? And I want you to start asking this question when you are sitting there going, if you're really mad at your spouse, how did I get here? If you aren't making enough money, how did I get here? If you find yourself having the same problem with people, how did I get here? One thing that I ask a lot of my clients is, what is the dominant thought in your mind? Now, what does that mean? I say, imagine if your brain was a hard drive. What's taking up the most space? What's taking up the most space? And I think that it's important to pay attention to this idea, because when that dominant thought arises, ask yourself, how did I get here? And then if you have these reoccurring thoughts that, oh, I'm doing it again. It's kind of like the golfer that stands up on the first tee and he shanks it right into the woods, and he looks at all of his friends and he says, I knew I would do that. Okay, well, you followed through. That's self-fulfilling prophecy, if you will. I saw a really interesting thing by Simon Sinek. And he said the dominant thought, or what you focus on, tends to come true. So, for instance, if a skier is looking at going down a mountain path, and say it's these double black diamonds, or I'm not a skier, so I don't know if that's even the appropriate term, but he says, if you are going to jump off the cliff and you say, don't hit the trees, don't hit the trees, don't hit the trees, don't hit the trees, you're going to hit the trees, because it is your dominant thought. It is what you are focusing on. And that is going to cause a chain reaction in your body, chain reaction in the medical staff coming out, chain reaction in your family being scared for you, all these different things. But if you change your dominant thought to follow the path, follow the path, follow the path, all the trees disappear. And all you see is the path. So, for instance, if you let your past dictate your future, so say, for instance, and we all do this, we all get triggered. We all get triggered, and we're sitting here and we're going, oh, this person's just like this person. Oh, they said this and it reminds me of this person, so this person is going to hurt me the way this person did, or will, or can, or whatever. And so then we start pulling back. But it's really just a neural pathway that is associated closely enough to where it triggers the entire relationship. And we have to be really, really careful of when our triggers are causing this ripple effect that are actually negating us and taking us away of our future possibility, of our future incredible, wonderful existence that we know that we're capable of. But so often, this is why they say that the path repeats itself, and this is why oftentimes we're creating the same ripples, because we're triggered a very specific and certain way, and we will have the very same and specific reactions, and then we get into these habit loops. And asking yourself, how did I get here? And this is, again, when you're mad, when you're this, when you're that. But it's not just the negative. It's not just the negative. Also, when really good things are happening to you, i.e., like I'm getting to speak on the national stage, how did I get here? Because I want to do that again. If you look up and, you used to be scared about 3-figure problems, anything between $100 and $900. But now you're having 5-figure conversations. You're talking about $10,000 to $90,000. How did I get here? Where is my thinking and my actions different that are causing me to have such different problems, such different conversations, such different opportunities? And if you ask yourself, how did I get here? And you repeat that in a very specific and a very certain way, you're going to get to those 6-figure opportunities, 7-figure opportunities. This is important to raise our awareness level of what is possible. But the thing is so much of our existence is actually reactionary. So we don't know where we're going. So we are living that default life. We are living the life that is going to keep us on the same hamster wheel. If you want, and it's so interesting because if you want different things, you're going to have to do different things. But so often we keep doing the same things, 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 the same thing, the same. No, that's not a broken record. I'm just saying the same things. You're like, okay, Greg, I get the point, but you don't. You're doing the same things expecting different results. We call this the definition of insanity. It's been said, from here till, kingdom come, but it's true. Identifying the ripple effect, the different decisions. And it's not always going to be immediately clear. Like, for instance, when I was losing my weight, I worked out that first day, damn near killed myself. Noticed 0 results other than the fact that I am really sore. Okay, and then the next day, I work out. 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 Sometimes the timetables need to be better understood. And this is where I'm going to wrap up this idea. Because we say, hey, I want to ready, what is the new thing that everyone said? Ready, fire, aim. Okay. However, we have to understand the timetable. So for instance, if you're going to lose weight, you probably need to stay consistent on your diet and exercise for longer than a day. This is going to be something that is going to be at least a month before you start seeing results. Maybe it's a week. Maybe people are fast losers. I don't know. It was probably about 3 weeks to a month before I was like, progress. And then I was in a state of momentum. But the other thing is building a life. There's timetables where it's a few years before you see the results. I mean, the average business, before it makes its first $1 million, is in business for 11 years. Now, I certainly think we can accelerate that timeline, but that's a long time before you're like, oh, made my $1 million. The timetable was long. Whereas if you're cleaning your kitchen and you stay in consistent cleaning for an hour, you're probably going to have a spotless kitchen. It wasn't. And so here's the thing that I'm talking about. When we start applying consistency and awareness and the ripple effect, we have to understand that everything's on a different timetable. So these are sales cycles. There's some people who will buy instantly. There's other people it's going to take them, months and months and months, maybe years. For instance, with me, buying into Renatus, it took me 2.5 years. I said no for 2.5 years. There's other people who see the opportunity first day. Boom, I'm in. Let's rock and roll. I want it. Everyone's on a different timetable. And so that's the other thing is, you are changing your life. You're moving into a new direction. You're doing these things. Understand that no one else is on the same timetable you are, and you can't get into the comparative reality. Raise your awareness. Stay in consistency. Understand this ripple effect approach. Ask yourself, how did I get here? How did I get here? Both good and bad. Trace the conversations. Trace the steps. I just wrote a song called Wise Actions Repeated. It's an acronym, or WAR is the acronym for Wise Actions Repeated. And you got to ask yourself, are you doing wise actions repeated? Or are you a pirate and you're just a arr? Okay, that's a dad joke, right? Or are you just actions repeated? Because sometimes the wise action is to walk away. The wise action is to press the reset button. The wise action is to pivot. The wise action is to adjust. The wise action is to take the toxicity out of your life. The wise action is to not eat the donut. Whatever it is. So are you going to war every day, or are you a pirate and you're actively sinking your own ship? You're actively, stealing from your future. And you're on this perpetual path of just these certain actions, this default life repeated. And then if you start tracing all those things, you're going to understand, how did I get here? With that being said, the Final Percent is back. I love you guys. Come join our Facebook group. That's somewhere where I'm really active these days. It's the Final Percent Network. Also, please follow me on Instagram. It's just at Greg Kimble, GregKimble. The other ask that I would love for you to plug in with us, go to thefinalpercent.com, join our mailing list, see what we're up to. I am so unbelievably appreciative that you are listening to this podcast, and especially if you're at this moment in the podcast, because that means you listened to the whole thing and you went the final percent, and I appreciate you.
It's the final percent. The final percent.